Hey everyone, it's Alexis, and today's video is actually going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to do another Q&A, so this is Q&A number 2. So I will be making macrame bracelets while talking to you guys. So I started on these bracelets. Really, I've been working on them for like the last week and some change. This is only like a fraction of what I've done. This is about 20 of my whole set. So I have a little checklist of things I want to talk about today. So I will be honest with y'all, nobody has asked me these things in a long time, but people have asked me these things in the past and I just never got around to answering them. And I just thought, why not answer them now? So right now I'm working on this color. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's like a very like, I don't know if you call it like kind of magenta, but more on like the like pinkish side. So my first question is, how long does it take to make a bracelet, specifically a macrame bracelet? That's a very interesting question. So when I make products, I don't, oh my god, I'm struggling. I'm not struggling anymore. When I make products, I don't just make one at a time. I usually work in bulk. So for example, with these macrame bracelets, typically I make all of my starter weaving. So starter weaving is basically just like the first few rows of it. Since I don't tie my ends like other people do, I have to like hold it in my hand. So if I have something that is 6 strings, it'll be about 7 rows I have to do. So for example, I did 100 bracelets of this, and so doing the starter weaving for those took me about 5 days just for those first 7 rows. But the actual weaving like this right here, it doesn't take as long, but it is still pretty time consuming. So some days I work a little bit faster than others. Some days I'm a little bit more distracted like right now. But usually when I work in bulk, let's say this is like a set of 20 right here. This would take me, let's say about a day. Maybe when I was younger I could do more, but say a set of 20 takes me about a day. So to do all 100, it would probably take me an estimated like 5 days to do them, and then to add the end pieces onto them, that would be another 2 days right there, doing like 50 and 50. So for bracelet making, it depends on what type of bracelet. So macrame bracelets, like I said, that's going to be at least like a good like week and a half long process. Some bracelets are quicker, like my loom bracelets. It may be more like 1 day from start to finish. It doesn't really take as long for those. Do you get tired? This is a funny one, but yes, I do get extremely tired, which is why it's kind of hard for me to actually make a lot at once. I mainly get tired from the repetition of things. Oh, I just realized y'all can't really see nothing. I mainly get tired from the repetition of things. So like with the weaving, it doesn't bother me to do it at first, but once you get to like that, I don't know, 15th bracelet, then you start to feel it in like your wrists, you start to feel it in your shoulders, you start to feel it in your neck since you're like looking down. So it's very strenuous over time, but as you are just working on maybe 1 or 2 or just like a small handful, it's not really bad. I would say like yesterday and the day before, I was working on some new keychains, and working on like hundreds of them at a time, you start to feel it really, really bad, especially since the pliers I use were awful. So it depends on the product, it depends on what I'm using. The least strenuous product to make would be my loom bracelets. Again, that's just kind of become my favorite thing to do because it's less strain on me. But stuff like this I tend to dread because it takes so long, and it does feel physically stressful. So I've learned to stop making such big bulk at one time, and just instead of making like 40 at a time, let me do like 20 at a time, and then like do a variety of different tasks. It's a lot on your hand, especially your more dominant hand, and then your shoulder of that dominant hand. So yes, I do get very tired, but I've learned to kind of manage that and work on different tasks at once. How did you learn to make macrame bracelets? I learned to make macrame bracelets honestly through WikiHow. And that's actually how I learned how to make string beaded bracelets as well as other types of bracelets as well. But when I started to learn how to do more complex patterns, that's when I started to go on YouTube. What do you do if you mess up? When oh my gosh, talk about the timing. When I mess up, all you have to do for these macrame bracelets is literally just untangle them. That's another reason why it's so important to not make such a tight knot. One, you don't want to fray your material, especially if you have yarn like this. But two, if you have a knot or something like that, all you have to do is just pull it apart. So it does add extra time to it, but it's better to go ahead and identify those little errors before you keep going. I've had a time when, let's say I was making a 7-inch bracelet. It's one of those things where I was at about 6.5 and I realized I made an error at about 2 inches into the bracelet, so I had to literally undo like the majority of that single bracelet. For my other products, it's the same thing. Like, you literally just undo everything you've done. So it's very frustrating, but it's not as hard as I think people make it seem. I definitely don't throw anything away unless it's frayed or damaged. How do you have so much inventory? I especially got asked this when I went to the event in May, but for me, I don't necessarily just have a lot of inventory from like one setting. Usually I do things in bulk and I have that bulk for a while, and when I put products on like my website or whatever, I always have like a smaller quantity of what I actually have. And then if I sell in person, I'm only taking like a quantity because I just can't store everything. So it's not that I have so much inventory, is that a lot of times when I make up my stuff, I try to make the majority of my supply, but I just have listed what is easy for me to manage. It's easier for me to manage, like, I don't know, let's say 20 products as opposed to like 500. People think it's a lot, but it's like I've been working on it for a long time, not just in the last week or two. Is it hard to make bracelets, specifically macrame bracelets? It's not hard at all, but it's very time consuming. Once you learn the basics to it, it's very easy in my opinion. I think the hard part is just learning the proper technique. Like for macrame bracelets specifically, it's not even what I'm doing now, just to like putting it together. It's learning how to make it so it's not too tight, but also not too loose, if that makes sense. It's really just about practice, but it's not hard at all to make any of these bracelets. I would say another thing is that you need to have an eye for detail, because I technically can make these without looking, but I really wouldn't want to, because a lot of times it's easy to mess up, or maybe I've knotted the wrong thing, or if I'm like with my loom bracelet, maybe I've just like skipped something or it didn't fold the way it needed to. I know that sounds kind of complicated, but you'll notice there might be like a gap, or you may have put too many like knots where it shouldn't have been. Pay attention. That's the hardest part, because if you mess up and you have to go back and undo all that, you will be so mad at yourself. And so the last question is, do you know any patterns? People have asked me that over the years. I prefer to do these more simple patterns. Like this right here is called a candy stripe pattern, which is just pretty much diagonals all the way through. I also like to do chevrons, but for like my standard products, I just have the diagonals on there. It's very simple to make. I don't want to sign up for a hard task that I don't really feel like I can commit to and I have no passion for. So if anybody were to ever commission me for something more complicated, I could do it. I just really don't like to, and that's just like a personal choice. But for patterns, I don't know like the super complex patterns, but if you want to get into stuff like that, I would definitely recommend, I believe it's called Bracelet Book. They have things that beginners can do, more intermediate people can do, advanced. It's like a whole bunch of nice patterns on there, so I would definitely say try that out. With that being said, that's actually my last question. Thank you guys for watching this. I know it was kind of different. I originally intended on having like me and like my bracelets in my hand, but I guess just because of my workspace right now, it was easier for me to do it like this. So if you guys kind of like seeing stuff like that, me just kind of talking over the video, definitely let me know, because I can do it in the future. Or if you guys want like a more formal tutorial of any of these things, let me know. I could try it. With that being said, if you guys ever have any questions about small business or specifically what I do, jewelry and crafts, let me know. I'm free to answer. And I think that's it. With that being said, you guys have an amazing day, and thank you guys for watching, and bye.